Yeah, mic check 1, 2, coming through the speaker. Got the hot topics, turning up the ether. From the sparrow's tweet to the humble bee's buzz, we break it all down just because. No fake news, no fluff, just the real deal chatter. Climbing up the ranks, climbing up the ladder. Bee Sparrow Talk, yeah, that's the name. Bee Sparrow Talk, yeah, that's the name.
Buzz, tweet, talk, radio.
Turn it up loud, let the speakers blow. Welcome to the realest show you know. Got the word on the street, the chirp and the hum. Dropping knowledge till the kingdom comes. Sparrow's perspective, sharp and it's witty. Bees got the work ethic, running the city. Connected online, the YouTube sensation. Spreading good vibes across the whole nation. Ain't no more, man, yeah. Bee Sparrow Talk, yeah, that's the name. Bee Sparrow Talk, yeah, that's the name.
Buzz, tweet, talk, radio.
Turn it up loud, let the speakers blow. Welcome to the realest show you know.
Hey, I'm feeling that. Hey, I'm feeling that. Oh my goodness, what's up? Hold on, can I hear myself? I am feeling that. Hey, let me know if y'all like that theme song. I did it myself. I ain't gonna tell you how, but I did it myself. It's your girl, Bee Sparrow Buzz Sweet Talk Radio, and I got to talk to y'all tonight or today, this Sunday evening, about this pastor. I was just minding my business on TikTok, just strolling like we do. I need to download that app that pay you to stroll, because honey, I was strolling on TikTok. And I came across this video, and the video came out in 2021 or 2022? 2021, about this guy, Louie Giglio. This pastor, Louie Giglio. What's some of these pastors in these names? Louie Giglio, Creflo Dollar. What is up with these pastors in these names? But anyway, I had to stop what I was doing, y'all. I literally stopped the video that I was watching, and I had to set up this live stream because the first thing that came to my mind was Zechariah 1:15. And if y'all don't know what Zechariah 1:15 is, I'm gonna break it down. I'm gonna explain it to you with the help of Gemini AI, because I know what it means, but I'm gonna need a little bit of help to explain it to y'all. So this man, first of all, let me say, we're talking about Pastor, what's his name? I just said his dag blammit, Louie Giglio. Okay, that's what we talking about today. Let me check my sound before I continue, because I need for this to be clear. Because I'm telling y'all, this verse popped into my mind the moment I heard him say what he said. Okay, and so I had to share it. Right in mid 2020. Louie Giglio, the pastor, because I'm not calling anybody a pastor. I got to stop doing that. He is a pastor. Louie Giglio, founder of the Passion Movement and Passion City Church in Atlanta, sparked significant national controversy during a roundtable discussion on race. This is my first time hearing about this, and it happened in 2020. While speaking with Christian hip-hop artist Lecrae and Chick-fil-A CEO Dan Cathy, Giglio suggested that the term white privilege was too triggering for white people and proposed rebranding it as white blessing. Immediately, I knew these were Christians, and I knew that none of them read the Bible. None of them know scripture. These people don't know scripture. But let me continue. Giglio's comments were aimed at explaining how white Americans have benefited from the historical structures of slavery. He stated, "We understand the curse that was slavery. White people do, but we say," wait, hold on. I have the video. Let me share the video right quick and see. I'm going to let y'all hear it from the horse's mouth. Let me see. I'm going to share my screen. This one right here. Let me just play it for y'all right quick. Listen. Let me run it back.
We understand the curse that was slavery. White people do. And we say that was bad, but we miss the blessing of slavery. Goes off for a lot of white people because they don't want somebody telling know that you and I both have struggled in these days with, hey, if the phrase is the trip up, let's get over the phrase and let's get down to the heart.
Okay, I had an issue. Yeah. I don't know what went down, but I'm back. I'm back and I'm black. Okay, I had an issue. Yeah. I don't know what went down. So let me see if I can't just play the video instead of trying to share the screen. Let me see if I can't just turn this down. Let me see if I can do that. Because my computer was doing just fine. Then all of a sudden, I just cleaned her out. So she should be doing fine. I can't play the video. This is crazy. Where is the video? It's right here. Why do I have it twice? I don't know. Let me see if it'll let me play it. It don't look like it'll let me play it.
Understand the curse that was slavery. White people do. And we say that was bad, but we miss the blessing of slavery, that it actually built up the framework for the world that white people lived in and lived in. And so a lot of people call this white privilege, and when you say those two words, it just is like a fuse goes off for a lot of white people because they don't want somebody telling them to check their privilege. And so I know that you and I both have struggled in these days with, hey, if the phrase is the trip up, let's get over the phrase and let's get down to the heart.
Sure.
Let's get down to what then do you want to call it. And I think maybe a great thing for me is to call it white blessing, that I'm living in the blessing of the curse We understand the curse.
So he want to call white privilege a white blessing. Instead of calling it what it is, he wants to call it a white blessing. This is what Zechariah 1:15 is talking about. But let me finish reading to you guys about this Pastor Louie Giglio. He went on to suggest that instead of asking people to check their privilege, he could call it white blessing, acknowledging that he was living in the blessing of the curse that happened generationally. Now, I didn't hear of this. This happened in 2020. This is my first time hearing of it. And the moment I heard of it, I stopped what I was doing to go live. The backlash was immediate and widespread for several reasons. Critics argue that calling any aspect of slavery a blessing was dehumanizing and biblically unsound, as it framed on atrocity as a divine gift to one race. Many pointed out the discomfort of Lecrae, the only black man on stage that was up there on stage nodding to what this man was saying. If he was any type of true Israelite, biblical speaking and teaching Israelite, instead of claiming to be a so-called Christian, these Christians don't study, these Christians don't read, he would have threw out Zechariah 1:15 to him. This is the first thing that came to my mind. Zechariah 1:15, when I heard this man say that American slavery was a blessing to him. The only black man on stage later admitted that he was stunned and uncomfortable during the exchange. His punk A couldn't say anything right then and there. Why couldn't he say anything right then and there? Opponents of the phrasing argue that blessing implies something earned or given by God's favor, whereas privilege describes a systemic advantage gained at the expense of others. Giglio issued a tearful apology in a video shortly afterwards, stating he was deeply sorry and he had made a horrible choice of words. He does not believe there is any blessing in slavery. His intent was to help white Christians recognize that their current status in America is built on centuries of gross injustice against black people, which is called white privilege, not white blessing, sir. He admitted that his attempt to make the concept of white privilege palatable for a white audience ended up causing more pain. While Giglio's comment was a clumsy attempt to discuss privilege, other pastors have faced criticism for more direct defenses of historical slavery. For example, Douglas Wilson, a conservative theologian in Idaho, co-authored a pamphlet titled Southern Slavery as It Was, which argued that Southern slavery was more benign than history suggests and produced genuine affection between the races. Wilson has faced decades of criticism for these views, which many historians and theologians labeled as neo-Confederate. I've once heard or saw a girl on TikTok, a young girl on TikTok for that matter, say that the slaves was happy to be enslaved. So you're trying to tell me a people that was enslaved, branded, they were raped, hung, fed to alligators, separated from families, that these people was happy. These people were happy. This is what a lot of these white Christians believe, that black Americans were happy to be enslaved. Is that crazy or what? Who wants to be treated like an animal? Can't come and go when they want to. So let's go to Zechariah 1:15. KJV, this pastor said that he want to start calling white privilege white blessing instead of white privilege. Zechariah 1:15 says, "And I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease, for I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction." So I asked Gemini AI, what did that mean? I know what it means, but I wanted to see if Gemini AI was on the same page as I was. So, the heathen at ease. And I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease. At this point in history, around 520 BC, the Jewish people had returned from Babylonian exile in a ruined Jerusalem, while the Israelites were struggling to rebuild. The surrounding heathen nations like the Babylonians and the Persians were living in peace, luxury, and security. Does that remind y'all of something? While black people, foundation of black Americans, were over here slaving and building and working from morning to morning and being ripped apart and ripped from families, white America was living in peace and luxury and security. Now, y'all's sore pleasure, Most High Yah, sore pleasure stems from the fact that these nations were indifferent to the suffering of Yah's people and felt untouchable in their own power. Do y'all hear this? Do y'all hear this? This man, this pastor says that, hold on, let me, where's my paper? This pastor said, hold on, let me pull up what he said. We understand the curse that was slavery. White people do, and we say that was bad. But we miss the blessing of slavery, that it actually built up the framework for the world that white people live in and lived in. Now, to a degree, he's right. To a degree, he's right. But my point to you is, this is nothing for him to be proud about, according to Zechariah 1:15. And again, at this point, the Jewish people was returning back from the Babylonian exile, and they was having a hard time building up. Probably couldn't get no funds to help build it up. And while the Israelites were struggling to rebuild, the surrounding heathen nations, like the Babylonians and the Persians, were living in peace, luxury, and security. And the Most High Yah, he didn't like it. Yah's sore displeasure stems from the fact that these nations were indifferent to the suffering of his people and felt untouched in their own power. Doesn't this sound familiar? Does this not sound familiar? But wait, there's more. Yah said, I was but a little displeased. The phrase refers to Yah's original intent for the Babylonian exile. For the Babylonian exile. I'm so excited I can't talk. Yah did use these foreign nations. He used foreign nations as a rod to punish Israel for their disobedience and idolatry. And he did it up to down. He's still doing it, because y'all do know that black Americans are Israel. If you didn't do it, do some research. If you didn't know, do some research. The discipline was meant to be measured and corrective. Us, Black Americans, foundation of Black Americans, going into slavery, it was meant to be a rod. It was meant to be measured and corrective. The Most High was correcting us because of our disobedience to Him, but they helped for the affliction. They raped us. They murdered us. Hung us on trees. They separated us from our families. They fed our babies to alligators. They helped for the affliction. According to Zechariah 1:15, this is the crucial turning point of the verse. It means the foreign nations went too far. Instead of just carrying out God's or Yah's judgment, they acted with excessive cruelty and malice. Is this familiar to y'all? They didn't punish Israel to fulfill Yah's will. They did it out of their own pride and hatred. Because they took advantage of us, our vulnerability, to cause unnecessary destruction, Yah's anger shifted from His own people toward the nations that over-afflicted them. That's what's happening now. This is what's happening now to your white privilege and your white blessing. The shift in divine focus. So let's look at the aspect of things. You have the Israelites, who was the afflicted. The Israelites, that's Black Americans, who was afflicted. And then you have the nations who afflicted us, the heathens. The initial state, under God's little displeasure, we were disciplined. While we was out there picking cotton from morning to morning, while we was being whipped with the whip, they were being prosperous and they were at ease. The heathens was. While we suffered the consequences of the exile, they exceeded their mandate. They showed no mercy. Yah is going to return to us with mercies, with all kinds of mercies, while on the other hand, He is so displeased with them, according to Zechariah 1:15. Zechariah 1:15 serves as a comfort to the discouraged Black American in the United States of this here America and from the diaspora, the Blacks in the diaspora. This verse reassures us that even though our oppressors have not been punished, or this verse shows us that even though we have been punished, the Black Americans and the Israelites have been punished, even all throughout the history of the Bible. Slavery is throughout all the history of the Bible and has been in our time too, right? From the Bible all the way on up to now. Zechariah 1:15 serves as a comfort to those of us who have been discouraged. It reassures us that even though God has punished us and has took our ancestors and even us today through all kinds of racism and all kinds of atrocities, He has not abandoned us. He is aware of the cruelty that we are facing and that we have faced, and he is now turning his judgment towards our oppressors. This is happening now. It's a classic biblical theme. Yah uses instruments for discipline, but he holds those instruments accountable if they act with malice. You hear me? And ain't that what happened to us? Ain't that what happened to us? But if you go to Zechariah 1, 16 and 17, Yah's tone changes. It moves from judgment to one of extreme tenderness and restoration to another. Verse 16 begins with, "Therefore, thus saith the Lord, I am returned to Jerusalem with mercies." Now, this provides three specific promises. When he says, "Therefore, thus saith the Lord, I am returned to Jerusalem with mercies," the rebuilding of the temple his house shall be built in it. In Jerusalem, the temple had been in ruins for decades at this point in Zechariah. This was a legal and spiritual green light to finish the work. A lot of people don't believe that there's going to be a third temple. I don't know. And when he say a line shall be stretched forth upon Jerusalem, this refers to a measuring line used by architects and builders. It signaled that the city will be surveyed and reconstructed, moving from a pile of rubble to a planned urban city. A lot of people don't believe that that's the true Jerusalem over there right now. A lot of people don't believe that. Verse 17 promises that the cities will once again spread abroad and overflow with prosperity. And that's why a lot of people think that 1948 was a prophecy. I don't believe it was. The line mentioned in verse 16 is a powerful biblical symbol. When God stretches a line in judgment, it means destruction, like leveling a wall. But here, it is a measuring line of hope. It meant that God was personally overseeing the blueprints for the city's future. Or was he seeing it anyway? Imagine being a refugee returning to a city with no walls, no temple, and hostile neighbors. These verses were meant to boost morale. They told the people that while the heathen looked like they were winning because they were comfortable, Yah had actually shifted his favor back to the underdog. Israel. Who's Israel? Huh? So I asked Gemini AI, had these promises happened yet? Has Yah's promise to restore Jerusalem happened? It says to answer this question depends on whether you are looking at it through a historical, theological, or modern day lens. In biblical study, scholars usually see this promise as having layers of fulfillment. In other words, no. These promises have not been fulfilled yet, according to Scripture. The historical layer, the immediate fulfillment, in short term, God's promise to Zechariah was filled within a few generations. The temple, mentioned in verse 16, was finished and dedicated in 1516 BC. That was the second temple. The city walls, about 70 years after Zechariah's visions, Nehemiah returned and stretched the line to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. making it a secure city again, and prosperity. During the era of the Maccabees, Jerusalem grew significantly in wealth and size, fulfilling the promise that the cities would spread abroad through prosperity. The messianic layer, the spiritual fulfillment, many Christians believe the ultimate restoration of Jerusalem began with Jesus Christ. In this view, the house of Yah isn't just a building of stone, but the church or the hearts of believers. That's that Christian mess. That's that Christian mess. Get that mess out of here. When Zechariah speaks of Yah returning to Jerusalem with mercies, it is often linked to Christ's entry into the city and his sacrifice, which offered a spiritual restoration that a physical building never could. And I don't believe that either. That's just something that they're saying. I believe that the Most High is really going to restore. The real Jerusalem is going to be put into place. I believe that. Many readers point out that Zechariah's promises include things that have never fully happened in history. For example, Zechariah 14 describes a time when there is no more utter destruction and Jerusalem is safely inhabited by all nations. By all nations meaning the 12 tribes of Israel. You got to do your homework, people. The wall of fire, Zechariah 2:5 says, Yah will be a wall of fire around the city. Historically, Jerusalem has been conquered and destroyed several times since Zechariah's day, most notably by the Romans in 70 AD. So no, these prophecies have not been fulfilled yet. Modern Israel. Some see the establishment of the modern state of Israel in 1948 and the reunification of Jerusalem in 1967 as a partial fulfillment of these ancient promises. Nope. Because when the Most High said that he was going to gather his people and, put them back to Jerusalem, he said he was going to gather his people in the desert and he was going to plead with them, just like he did our ancestors. Yah said he was going to gather his people and he was going to gather them in the desert and plead with them the same as he did our forefathers. Has that happened yet? No. No, sir, no, ma'am. Has not happened yet. If you look at a map today, Jerusalem is a thriving, bustling city, which fulfills the prosperity part of the prophecy. However, from a biblical perspective, the full restoration where there is perfect peace and God dwells visibly in the midst of the city is still considered a future hope by many faiths. See, a lot of people don't know yet who the true Israelites are. A lot of these so-called scholars and a lot of these people that write this stuff, they don't understand yet who the real people are. But they will. And you know when? Soon. Pretty soon. So I just want to say to those white Christians, white evangelical Christians, or white people, period, who think that the curse of slavery was a blessing to you, you might be right. But according to Zechariah 1:15, come and see what the Most High is going to do to you. He says, and I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease, for I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction. He's saying, you are at ease while you put my people through so much atrocities, so many atrocities. They're having a hard time building their communities up, but you having peace You having prosperity. You chilling. You relaxing. While his people are struggling. Let me know what y'all think about this. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'm B Sparrow. Buzz Sweet Talk Radio. Yo, y'all. Holla at y'all, girl. Okay. Well, all right.
You are now tuned in to the one and only Buzz Tweet Talk Radio. Let's go. Yeah, mic check 1, 2, coming through the speaker. Got the hot topics, turning up the ether. From the sparrow suite to the humble bee's buzz, we break it all down just because. No fake news, no fluff, just the real deal chatter. Climbing up the ranks, climbing up the ladder. Bee Sparrow Talk, yeah, that's the name. Bee Sparrow Talk, yeah, that's the name.
Buzz Tweet Talk Radio.
Turn it up loud, let the speakers blow. Welcome to the realest show you know.